Hi, this is Sean Gaillard with another episode of the Leadership Liner Notes podcast. I'm coming to you from a very snowy and ice filled North Carolina, and I hope that if you are tuning in, the elements have not hit you too hard this week. We've been out of school here in North Carolina for the last couple of days, and I have enjoyed a lot of this time for reflection and reading and catching up and just spending some time in the peace of the snow and the ice as best as I can. And lately, on my turntable, as you know, I'm a big fan of music. I'm a big fan of vinyl. I'm a big fan of albums. I tend to listen to music in trends, or patterns. So I might be going through a Steely Dan phase, for example. So I'm going to listen to all of my Steely Dan albums and maybe some of the solo works of Donald Fagen and Walter Becker. I might be going through a Beethoven phase, so I'm going to listen to as much Beethoven as I can. It may last a few days, it may last a week, or what have you. But I really like to listen to albums thematically, or I'll listen to albums because they fit the mood that I'm in. So lately, I have really been diving deeply into artists and albums in which the band or the original lineup has changed in some way. So, for example, The Who, in the wake of the death of their original drummer Keith Moon, recorded an album called Face Dances, which came out in 1981. And I'm always fascinated with this album. How does a band recover from losing a member who was such in this case, a literal driving force of the band? Keith Moon's drumming, just such a part of the signature sound of The Who, and they got a totally different drummer, Kenny Jones, who does not play like Keith Moon, but somehow I feel that this album works. It had a couple of, actually had a few hits and iconic songs from this album. You Better You Bet. Some of you may know that, or Don't Let Go the Code, or Another Tricky Day. But the album does hold up heroically without Keith Moon, and it works. So I'm fascinated by that dynamic. Another one I've been listening to a lot lately, and for those of you who are Beatles fans or Paul McCartney or Wings fans, you are anticipating the new documentary that'll be coming out next month, Man on the Run, which is about Paul McCartney and the Wings era, the new band that he formed after the Beatles. And so I've been listening to a lot of early solo Paul McCartney, whether it's the 1971 album that he did with his wife, Linda McCartney, Ram, which is Paul McCartney, again, trying to figure out his direction after his years with the Beatles. I've also been listening to a lot of this great Wings compilation. Wings is the band that Paul McCartney formed after the Beatles, and they are known for so many great songs and hits like Band on the Run, Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, My Love, Jet, so on and so forth. So I've been kind of listening to this. How does Paul McCartney trying to figure out his sound, figure out his purpose in the aftermath of being in one of the biggest bands in the world? Another album I've been listening to a lot lately, and in fact I just saw the film a few days ago, Bruce Springsteen's biopic, the film Deliver Me from Nowhere, which is based on the book of the same name, which focuses on this period in Bruce's life where he is recording the album Nebraska. And so this album, which is kind of like an in-between album. It's not quite the glory and the grandeur of something like Born to Run, But yet this also anticipates this next turn that that the boss is going to make with 1984's Born in the USA. Nebraska is an album that was originally, a set of demos of Springsteen in a rented house in New Jersey in a bedroom recording with just himself and an acoustic guitar and a harmonica and a glockenspiel. And that movie and the book, Deliver Me From Nowhere, depicts the making of this album. It also openly and honestly deals with Springsteen's struggles with mental health as well, which is something that I have been diving deeply on and focusing on in therapy and so forth. But this is a really great album. Bill Evans, the great jazz pianist and composer, for the better part of the second half of his too short life, coming to terms with all kinds of things and loss, whether it was the loss of a pivotal band member in his original or one of his great lineups of the Bill Evans Trio, or the loss of his brother, and also dealing unfortunately with a crippling drug habit. So I've been listening to a lot of the Bill Evans Trio in the aftermath of those things, and how he's exploring playing with new musicians and exploring new sounds and trying to stretch the boundaries of what a jazz piano trio can do. So I've been listening to a lot of this album, Bill Evans Trio. It's a live album on a Friday evening. Pretenders, Chrissie Hynde, that great band from the 80s. That they lost two original band members due to drug overdoses. And I've been a big fan of this album lately, Learning to Crawl, which is the Pretenders coming to terms with that loss, those two losses rather, and forming a new lineup and exploring a new avenue. One of the great songs from this album, which is just a beautiful elegy to the fallen members of the Pretenders, and that's the song Back on the Chain Gang. But this is an album I've been exploring. The Allman Brothers Band lost two founding members, one of them being their leader, Dwayne Allman, and then the original bassist, Barry Oakley. And they recorded a great album, not too long after those two members had passed back to back. Can you imagine that? This great album, Brothers and Sisters, which has the hit Rambling Man and the great instrumental Jessica. It's a different lineup of the band, but again, the band is exploring a new sound, a new dimension. I can go on and on and on about all the albums that I've been listening to, but that's the trend that I've been exploring lately, is how does a band come to terms at this crossroads? How does a band fight through the liminal stage, this in-between stage? And I've talked a lot about that lately. If you've been watching or listening to this particular podcast or following the companion blog series, this notion of liminal. What do you do within the in-between? How does a leader, how does one go through those kind of in-between stages and come out the other side of that better and renewed and enlightened and re-energized and refocused? I've been between two gigs myself and struggling with the ebbs and the flows of that liminal stage, and learning to embrace the liminal, to embrace the space in between, and to embrace the space to pause and to reflect and to look forward to the next horizon. And in the course of that liminal phase, I have really been focusing on what does it mean to be a human while leading an organization or a team. What does it mean to lead while human? And this reflection and these kind of thoughts and writings have enriched the current writing of my blog post. It's also definitely enriched the current writing of my new and upcoming book, leadership riffs. And at first, the liminal stage was something, and I think all of us struggle with that, right? The in between, as leaders, we want things definite. We want to be able to be that steady beacon and foundation for those whom we are leading. They look to us for answers. They look to us for guidance. They look to us for hope. They look to us to, kind of burn through the fog to show the horizon, to show the outcome, the end, whatever it may be. And I've learned that the liminal stage, that in-between phase, can be a time of great growth, can be a time of new possibilities, and a time where there is this kind of notion when you're at a crossroads that there's a horizon in every direction. And that horizon in all directions, for me, is a good thing, is a positive thing, because the horizon for me symbolizes opportunity, possibility, new people to meet, new chances to tap into gifts and strengths, new opportunities to learn and grow from others. So in that liminal stage, I've really learned a whole lot about human-centered leadership, which I've been writing a lot about, as I mentioned earlier. I've been on this path with this great book, Humane Leadership, by Marcel Schwantes. He's a regular contributor and columnist to Inc. magazine, which I'm a big fan of, and I've shared a couple of articles in my various LinkedIn posts and things of that nature. But this notion of human-centered leadership, which is basically tapping into the better angels of our nature and also tapping into the better angels of others and their nature, and tapping into their gifts and strengths. And rather than leadership being guided by performative antics or metrics or surveys or that thing, it's really about leading with the heart, leading with love, leading with patience, leading with kindness, leading with understanding, leading with empathy, but most importantly, leading with belonging and including others in that realm. That notion of leadership is not original. That notion of leadership is something that is timeless and universal. And I've discovered a lot of things in this book and in other things that I've been reading and other people with whom I've been connecting with in this liminal stage. One of the folks that I've connected with and very grateful for that connection is Dr. Sonia Matthew. Dr. Matthew is an assistant principal in Maryland. Recently, she was named as Assistant Principal of the Year for the state of Maryland in 2025. And our paths have connected us to this notion of what does it mean to lead while human. And from that conversation has, in this liminal phase, has come a podcast project, which I'm very proud of, which will be dropping on February 1st. Sonia and I have interviewed 4 individuals. One we're getting ready to interview in the next few weeks, and we are very grateful for this inaugural series of 4 folks who we believe epitomize and exemplify what it means to lead while human. And all of their stories, all of the kind of the marrow of their leadership disrupts this traditional sense of leadership in a good way. So very, very excited. Like I said, the podcast will drop on February the 1st. First episode will feature Dr. Rachel Edo-Eckett, and excited that her conversation will drop on February the 1st. And we've got the the genius, someone who I consider to be a genius of leadership, and that is Principal Baruti Confele. And I know that many of you here who are tuning in have benefited from his works and his books. And then also excited to have one of my my thought partners and one of my dear friends, Lauren Kaufman, who has served as a guest on this podcast before, and really excited for you to learn about her take on leading while human, and you'll hear a lot about her wonderful book, The Leader Inside. And then another past guest of mine on another podcast project that I did last year on the Beatles, and that is Dr. Donia Ball, who has written a couple of books on leadership, and very, very excited about her upcoming perspective on leading while human. So we're doing, all in the month of February, a fabulous four guests who we will drop their episode weekly in the month of February. And then we'll press pause and give you all an opportunity to reflect, connect, and kind of soak in the marrow of our four guests' words. There may be an interlude episode along the way, and then we'll come back 4 months later with four additional guests for Leading While Human and hear their perspective. I do believe that this is a conversation that is so needed today. It really is. This notion of connecting with one's own humanity in order to lead and be better, and then also connecting with the humanity of others in order to create a sense of belonging, a sense of invitation, and a sense of collaboration. And not just a sense, but something that is sustainable and organic and whole and living and good for all. So stay tuned for Leading While Human. It will drop on February the 1st, the first episode. And I look forward to engaging in the conversation with you along the way. As some of you may know, I'm off X. That account was hacked and attacked, and I've kind of put that on the shelf. But I'm available through LinkedIn. I'm available through Facebook. I'm available through Blue Sky. I'm available through Instagram. Frankly, I'm just available to be a thought partner and connection for you. And I want to do what I can to help others to lead while human. So stay tuned for that podcast. Again, February the 1st. It has been such a joy to collaborate with Dr. Sonia Matthew. She is just a spark of energy and an insight, and you are definitely going to benefit from her words and her insights, and then also from our four guests. Very, very excited about Principal Confele, Lauren Kaufman, Dr. Rachel Edo Eckett, and Dr. Donia Ball, and as being our first four in our series. So, in closing, as I sign off for this podcast, don't forget to share with the world your dreams, your ideas, and your visions, because the world needs them, and you help make the world a better place. This is Sean Gaillard for Leadership Liner Notes Podcast. Thanks for tuning in. Hope to catch you on the flip side.